Funding for this program provided in part by the Sanibel Captiva Chamber of Commerce and by the Sanibel Inn.
Hello, this is the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation, and I have found a real pretty spot to paint over here, so let me get over there and get set up, and we'll start throwing some paint at this place. If I can get out of this boat. Well, in case you're wondering where I am, this is the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. What a pretty spot it is, too. It's like acres and acres of swamp and rivers and little bridges that go over the water. There's a walkway. You walk through here, you see all kinds of nature. Anyway, I picked out a nice place here. I pulled my canoe up over there, and there's another canoe sitting next to it here. I've already sketched all this stuff in. The clouds are, it's kind of like the other day. It's sunny and it's cloudy, and it's sunny and it's cloudy. So I'm just going to pick it like it is right now, and I'm going to paint this whole background with a kind of a light blue wash, because I want a very light blue wash back there, and that'll give me a chance to paint the color of the water also. So I'll just go ahead and start mixing up some color here. Just get into some blue. Now I have several blues in here. One of them is called a phthalo blue, and the other one is a French blue. I like to kind of mix those together. Dark at the top, and then start adding water to it as I come down towards the horizon. Don't worry about those drips. Just to kind of cool this paper off just a little bit. Then I'm going to put some more of that on the water. I want that a little bit bluer on the water. And I'm going to go ahead and paint around those canoes there, because I want those to be the white of the paper for right now. So I'll just kind of paint over those like that. Paint over my trees. Reach in and get some yellow, mix that together. And just kind of fill that in. Just a light green wash in there. There's a lot of green. Most of this is silhouetted against the sky, except for the canoes, and those are lighter. So I'll just paint all that. All right, what I want to do now is just let all this dry for a few minutes. All right, we're back, and I've let this dry a little bit. I'm going to start getting into some of those distant trees in the background there. Except a little blue, a little yellow. And I'll just start putting those in. Kind of a dry brush. I'm going to be going back into this area several times before I'm through. Right now I just kind of want to get the paper covered with paint. Up in there. Now that's those distant trees back there. blue back there. A little bit of purple back in there. Kind of let all that mix together. Get into some green over here. Just kind of a light wash. I don't want this too dark. Put that all in here, behind all those trees. A little yellow in that. Right now this doesn't make much sense. It's just a bunch of big shapes. Later on I'll go back in there and put branches and things like that in there, and it should help that along. Such a pretty place to paint in. What I'm painting are the trees that are behind the trees that are right next to the canoe. You have to kind of paint in stages. Just bring all that here, and I'm going to paint around that canoe again. Green in there, just some variation. Now while I've got that, I'm going to come back down in this same area here. Some of that purple in there too. This is pretty dark in through here in the bottom. Still a little windy out today. All right, now what I'm going to do is paint this tree in the foreground here. That's just almost silhouetted against the sky. If you kind of squint at that area, you can see that. So I'm just going to start mixing up some crazy colors here. Some blue and brown, and a little red. Kind of a little bit of everything. I want that real dark in there. I'll start down here. I'm going to be going back into this too. Right now I just kind of want to get some color on it, some darkness on it. Reach in, get a little brown. Go ahead and paint the whole tree, and then I'll come back and make those separations on the branches. A little blue. Back over here. This is going to dry lighter, so I can go back in there later. A little brown, a little blue. A little drip. Make just different variations, shapes. I'm not trying to copy that tree exactly, but I need something dark up close. And then it comes down this way. Go to a little bit smaller brush here. I'll go to a round brush. Make some of the finer branches. all the way across here. Something kind of like that. Like I say, I'm going to go back in here later after this dries and make some more variation in there. Now I'm going to carry that shadow of that tree down onto the grass right now. Looks to be, it's kind of purple, but it's laying on that green, so that should kind of cancel it out. It's just kind of a dark shape. Not quite that dark. Just add a little bit of water to that. This whole area I'm standing in is kind of in the shade right now. And that comes clear across here. I want to define which direction the light is coming from. Now that I've got that, I'm going to get back into some green and paint this grassy area right in front of the water. Just kind of a dark green. That'll help define this bank. Go ahead and put the bank in first. Some different shapes. I'll be going back into this area again later too. Right now I just kind of want to get everything set on the ground here. All right. Now what I'm going to do is paint the trees that are closer up. They're right next to the canoe. I'm going to paint the leaves of those. It's kind of a green and a blue together. I want those quite a bit darker also. Those are kind of silhouetted against the sky. A few of those in. Something kind of like that. It's really getting cloudy out now. Bring some of those down in here. Right now this just looks like a mess, and in a way it is. What I'll do is later on after this dries, I'll come back and put tree branches in there. That'll kind of help explain that. Paint behind my canoe again. All right. Mix up a little bit of purple. Now I want to make the reflections of these weeds over here in the water right now. Those kind of come down this way. And then they go back up into here. Something kind of like that. All right. All right, I think what I want to do right now is let all this stuff dry so that I can come back in here and start getting some really defined dark areas. As you can see, it's really getting cloudy, so why don't we go take a look around?
The Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation is a not-for-profit organization, and we co-evolved with the National Wildlife Refuge across the street and recognized that land acquisition is the fairest way to set aside land for wildlife. And in conjunction with owning the land, then you need to be a steward of it and take care of it and make sure that it's providing all the things that the wildlife needs here. And so we buy land, we restore the habitat, and then we do education programs here. So the first conservation efforts were to establish a National Wildlife Refuge, but recognizing that that's part of the federal government and that they may not always have the local priorities at the top of their list, there began an effort to create a nonprofit organization who could mobilize more quickly and also initiate a grassroots movement. And you're along what we call the Sanibel River Corridor, and most people don't even know that the Sanibel River exists. But this is one of the unique treasures of the island because this is fresh water at the surface. And if you think about barrier islands, you may know from other parts of the country, you don't find fresh water at the surface. But the surface waters allow bobcats a place to drink, river otters a place to play. And so a lot of our work has been to purchase the lands along the Sanibel River corridor to keep the riparian areas viable for wildlife. The Conservation Foundation right now owns just a little over 1,100 acres. Now there's 12,000 acres on Sanibel and 400 acres on Captiva in total. And between the National Wildlife Refuge, the Conservation Foundation, and the city of Sanibel, over half of the islands are set aside for wildlife habitat. One of the things I think that it's important for visitors if they come to the island is that when they're first traveling down the roadways, they may have a sense that the islands are very built up, although much of our commerce is very low-key and the signs are very small and the stores are set off to the sides of the road. But what they need to appreciate is all the roadless areas on the island, and it requires getting out of your car and taking a walk. But if you do that, you're rewarded by some very gorgeous and quiet places. It is a lot of work, but it's very rewarding work when you get to see at sunrise with the trees full of warblers and you watch the river otters romp through here, or you get a glimpse of a bobcat as it's running down a trail. You begin to kind of charge your batteries and get what you need to go back out there and educate more people. All of the lands here have either been donated directly or have been the results of donations from people. We receive no federal funding or outside funding aside from the donations of the people here. And so this is the hearts and minds of the people of these islands.
All right. I'm going to put some branches of some of these trees in right now over here. I need to define this area a little bit. Kind of get back into some of the stuff I already have on the palette and maybe add some brown to that. A little blue. All right, I'm going to start here. Kind of a start and stop kind of a thing. Branch there, it pokes through, it comes back, out, comes up. That kind of explains those shapes in there. Some over here, another one there maybe. You can kind of see what's going on there. Really not a lot to it. I think I'm going to start on my canoes, work on those a little bit. They're made out of aluminum, so that's kind of a gray color. For gray, I like to use this French ultramarine blue. some of that in there. And then mix up some burnt sienna. Mix that together. That makes a nice gray. Okay, now we have a nice shadow over here on this side. So I'll start there. And bring that up here. And I'm going to get a little bit of water now. Kind of soften that edge a little bit. And then while that's wet, I want to put some color down in there. There's a little bit of yellow in that. And I think I'll do the same over here. There's a little bit of a kind of a shadow in there. Kind of soften that. Put some of this dark inside of that canoe now. That has a really quite dark shadow in there. And it's got that piece that goes across. And then one in here. Make the inside of that canoe, that really makes that pop out. And then back up in here. And I'm going to drop a little yellow in that. I'm going to go to a quite small brush right now. I need to put some weeds and things in. Spread over in this area. Start putting some detail in this puppy. A few little weeds sticking here and there, little happy weeds. I think we lost our sun again. Things really change when the sun goes away. Still looks pretty though. All right, get back into my tree now. It's changed quite a bit from what it was a while ago because right now it's real cloudy. So I'm going to try to remember what it looked like and go with that. I'm going to separate these trees right here. There's a big one that comes down here. Just put some more dark into that. And then that comes back over here on this side. Kind of separate them a little bit. The scene has changed quite a bit from when I first got here. The sun has gone away completely and it's very cloudy. In fact, it looks like it might rain any time, so we may have to get the heck out of Dodge. We'll hang around as long as we can. Put that little line on top of this canoe. I need that. That's what holds the canoe together. Doesn't have to be perfect. Some more weeds. More weeds. This is really a pretty place to come. You can walk all over this area. In fact, I think more than half of Sanibel is devoted to wildlife preservation, which is really quite phenomenal if you think about it. There's people living with nature. That's kind of unusual these days. It's really a pretty place to come, though. A little mark out here. Gonna need a few more tree limbs, and we're just about there. Bring some of them this way. Make it look real woodsy. pretty well do much, you can pretty well get away with a lot of stuff at this point in your painting. You just kind of touch it here, touch it there. It's hard to know when to stop. Somebody stop me. Well, I think I'm done with this one. What a pretty place to come and paint. Take a walk. There's, you got to see some of these bridges. They go over this water. It's just almost black. Anyway, we're on to another spot, so we're having a great time down here in Florida. So come on down. Bring your paints with you, your camera, your family, whatever. So until the next time I see you, I'm Bob Fagan, and we've been painting on location.
This program is available on video for just $17.95 or $179.95 for the whole 13-part Sanibel Captiva series. Also, Bob has produced 3 one-hour instructional videos on the art of watercolor painting. Each one is available for $19.95 or $36.95 for your choice of 2, or all 3 for $54.95. Call 1-800-353-2232 to order.